Hi, this is Howard Tiersky, CEO of Moving Interactive, and welcoming you to a very special episode of our Digital Innovation Series. Special because today we are joined by a guest. Our guest today is Michelle McKenna. Michelle is currently the Chief Information Officer for the National Football League and was previously the CIO at Universal Studios theme parks, as well as at Constellation Energy. And early in her career, she served as an executive at Walt Disney World theme parks, where she led many strategic and innovative projects. And at Moving Interactive, we've had a chance to work with Michelle for many years and really see her in action, driving breakthrough initiatives that were not only innovative technology solutions, but were transformational from a business results perspective. So thank you for joining us today, Michelle. Really appreciate your coming.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Super. So the first thing I want to ask you, you've worked in so many areas of business. You've worked in finance, you've worked in marketing, obviously you've worked in IT. What role has innovation played as you've played all those different roles throughout your career?
Well, good question, Howard. Early in my career, I think I naturally gravitated to change-oriented projects. And because I started to get a lot of experience in those, I became known for my ability to drive change or innovation. And when I think about innovation, how you put that in the context of my career and innovation in general, it really just means large or small or medium scale change, but change that's successful. And focusing on those types of opportunities in an organization means you ultimately have to develop yourself as both a strong implementer as well as a business strategy, because finding the right path to that kind of change always means finding the balances between creating value for the business, value for your fans, guests, customers, whatever term you use, and getting things actually implemented so that everyone can start realizing value quickly. The best change and innovation I have found in my career has been when I've been able to harness the collaborative energy from within an organization when a case for change presents itself. And when that case for change does present itself, you have to really be deliberate about challenging the status quo. So that's really how my career got started in change and innovation, and ultimately how I moved from marketing and sales and finance into IT and to the technology space.
But you've had such an amazing string of successful innovation projects. Is there something that you're doing? What's the secret sauce? What's the key to the success that you've had that's led you through so many amazing projects and now to become, in your role for the NFL?
Well, I've gotten a lot of credit over the years for work that was really done by large teams of people. And if I were to assess perhaps my most important contribution, it's certainly not in doing the work, all the work. And while I'm like to think of myself as an idea person, it's not even being the person with the best idea, but it's being the person who's able to get an organization moving and keeping them focused on the big opportunities.
And how do you do that?
Well, you need so many things to launch innovative new products or programs, but the reality is that most organizations have everything they need to be innovative. They have smart people, dedication, they have customers, they have incredible assets to leverage, and most have plenty of ideas as well. I think the keys that really unlock the innovation potential are, first of all, strong senior leadership and sponsorship, and I mean from the CEO level, that not only emphasizes the importance of innovation as a concept, but rewards it, gives it plenty of air cover to people who are working to drive that change, and gives the organization room to fail, because failure is absolutely a part of innovation. The second thing is to figure out how to get all the talent in the organization to really collaborate together.
And any tips on getting that collaboration going?
As a matter of fact, in partnership with you at Moving Interactive,
right.
And throughout my career, you find creative ways to bring people together and get them to leave their job identity behind and enter in a common goal that they're all trying to solve for the overall betterment of the organization. And you can use collaboration workshops like the space we're sitting in today to unlock the ideas and potential that people have for solving problems, and just getting them sort of working together on something that's bigger than each of them individually, and facilitating that communication, ownership of the problem, and then when you leave the workshop or the time that you're together, you hopefully carry that spirit with you,
Right.
and try to make it live and breathe on an everyday basis. And I think inherently people know that the way to drive change is to get people behind it and to collaborate. But I do think that there is a little bit of magic sauce in helping, using organizations that can help you accelerate that process.
Well, let me switch gears and ask you about sort of timing. How does an organization know, when it's time to innovate? I mean, are there times when innovation is more important than at other times?
I think there's always an opportunity for innovation, but it's true that there are times when it's really useful and helpful to your product development cycle, but there are other times when it's absolutely essential. And right now we see certain industries that are being really transformed by technology. And working in the media area, this is certainly one of those areas, and it's disruption in certain areas of business that are causing, externally, it's causing internal innovation. And so if you look at, for us at the NFL, how our fans digest and interact with our content has drastically changed over the last few years, and it continues to change at a very rapid pace. And so when you look at everyone that you interact with, who uses your product, who advertises with you, other partners are changing, well, it's imperative that you change. And ideally, you'd be in front of that change so that you're inventing the future, not being made obsolete by it.
And for our people watching this who are trying to take on innovation projects in their organizations, what kind of challenges should they expect, particularly in large enterprises where you and I have worked mostly? What do you think are some of the greatest difficulties in trying to be that driver of innovation?
I'd like to say there are none, but I would say, back to what I said a little bit earlier, is if you can get people to separate themselves from their current job identity to solve a problem that benefits the greater organization, that's really the magic sauce. Because those organizations, and we've certainly seen many that have modeled this, that have this as part of their organizational culture, have an easier go of it. So that's why tech companies often get applauded for how innovative they are. Well, their culture was born within the last 15 years, and innovation and change, and what my job is today isn't going to be what my job is tomorrow, and that's just part of their DNA and their culture. And while I know that it must require a deliberate focus on the parts of those organizations, I do think that if you can try to infuse that culture in some way and try to be deliberate about it, it'll make it much easier. And I'd also say that the hardest thing to do, and often large enterprises, is just sticking to it. Many organizations, are publicly traded companies that have quarterly earning reports, and at times a revolving door of executives. And in those types of organizations, even if you get a commitment behind a program designed to drive significant innovation, if you aren't delivering massive value after 1 or 2 quarters, and the winds change politically, it can stay challenging to keep people's focus and the investment flowing. So that's one reason why I look for championship from the CEO at the top of the organization, as well as you have to find the quick wins. Even if you realize that that quick win you're going to deliver will be obsolete in 2 quarters, because you're actually moving down a path to deliver something greater. If you don't keep people interested, well, they change the channel, right? We know that. And so you have to keep your organization interested and committed. So it's not always practical to do the demonstration of value quickly, because sometimes the changes are so massive that it's hard to do that. But there are certain things you can do where you can try to maintain that kind of focus and momentum, and I think that's important.
And I have to ask then, so what are some of those things you can do
Well, you gotta
when you
give away
can't
all
deliver?
my secrets. Well, I think first of all, if you can find a way, it really comes down to marketing, and I guess marketing and making sure you've got the product to back up your marketing message. And I think as a CIO, what I often talk to other CIOs about is they underestimate the importance of the marketing of their efforts. And so you need to really launch a program that can be understood, adopted, embraced by a large portion of the company, not just those folks that are going to be developing code for you or building a database for you. So you've got to launch a program that is branded with a purpose that everyone can get behind. You have to be able to communicate frequently. Do an employee survey at any company and you'd find the number one thing people complain about isn't compensation, it's I'm not communicated to enough. And so when you're doing change, you only have to double it. So you have to communicate really well just in the normal course of business. But when you're driving transformational change, a real communication plan that you put as much diligence in as you would put into your national marketing campaign. I mean, you're trying to convince people to do something massively different than they've done in the past. And companies will often ask a little team with no budget to try to pull this off, give no resources while they'll spend millions and millions on a national marketing campaign to talk about the product. So, make sure your marketing partner knows that you can't go make that marketing brand promise unless, I can convince internally to the organization. And then in order to talk to the CMO at that level, talk to the CFO at that level, you've got to have a seat at the table. And you know what, frankly, CIOs getting a seat at the table is a relatively new thing. Lots of stuff written about from the back room to the boardroom. It's true. And one of the things I'm very excited about at the NFL is now IT in general and technology and innovation has a big seat at the table with a lot of sponsorship from the top of the organization.
And to that point, I mean, some people might be surprised that the CIO of the NFL is a woman. And throughout your career, you've worked in a number of kind of boys clubs. Have you found, I'm wondering, being a woman, does that make it easier to drive innovation, harder to drive innovation, doesn't matter? What's been your experience?
Well, not so much as regards to innovation, but certainly there are some things that are harder for a woman in male-dominated environments. And I think what I'd call out that I most often experience is just socializing and getting to know each other when the whole organization is fairly male-dominated and you're the only woman. Can be harder, that sort of social element. And since relationships is so important in driving change, I think a woman might find themselves having to work a little bit harder on the relationship part. Sitting down at a bar to have a drink, man and a woman traveling has a different connotation than two men or two women sitting down. And I think a key principle of innovation at the end of the day is looking at what you have and making it work for you. And so even though I've worked in heavily male-dominated environments, as a result, some of my best mentors have been men, and specifically men who have daughters. I find and feel that I can be more open, honest, and direct at times, more than my male counterparts can be with very senior leaders in the organizations, because I'm not protecting myself from being called the girl or being called, weak in a situation, because at the end of the day, I am a girl, and I'm confident in being able to talk about these things. And particularly, some of my best mentors have been men who want to see their daughters excel in whatever they decide to do, whether it happens to be a male-dominated place or not.
Great. Well, it's great to hear there's all those positives as well. That's awesome. Well, probably this is my last and most important question. Now, we're filming this. It's still early in the 2013-14 football season. But I figure at the NFL, you must have some inside information. So we all want to know, who do you like in this year's Super Bowl?
Are you trying to get me fired? Well, let me start by saying this. I'm just recently celebrating my 1-year anniversary here at the National Football League.
Congratulations.
Yep. been very exciting. So I finished my rookie season, as they like to say,
Right.
and I'm in my second season. I lived in Baltimore for a year before moving to New York to join the NFL. So it was very cool that in my rookie season, the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl last year. But what I have found that I've always loved football and loved the game of football. But now that I work here, I have such an appreciation for the level of competition that we put on the field. And it's a politically correct answer, but it's the truth. And that is, you really want to see the best competition, the closest games, the more overtimes, the closer nail-biting games. You really want to see teams just put their best on the field. And at the end of the day, living in New York now, we're all going to get to win because our Super Bowl, Super Bowl 48, will be here in New York City. So it's going to be exciting.
Excellent. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really interesting insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. This is Howard Tiersky, CEO of Moving Interactive. And I want to add that we welcome any questions you have about any of our Digital Innovation Series videos. But if you have any questions on this one, if you have any questions for Michelle, you can post them to any of our social media channels, and we'll try to get them to Michelle and see if we can't get her to answer a few of them. But don't bother asking her about the Super Bowl. Obviously, she's not going to give us her real opinion on that topic. But for anything else, anything about innovation, feel free to send those to us. As well, of course, check out movinginteractive.com for all of our other videos, thought leadership white papers, and other great stuff. And as always, wishing you tremendous success with all your digital innovation.